Hello, and welcome to another episode of my Sell the Singularity videos. Um, this is Northstar doing a bit of the tea exploration event. It's calming after some of the stuff I've had to deal with just today. Communications stuff. It's incredibly frustrating. Um, I didn't check an email today and found that suddenly it must have come into effect shortly after New Year. A couple of institutional that emails I had, that is university alumni ones, excuse me, suddenly had their storage reduced a bunch. The max storage in some was over, causing not only emails saying you must now reduce your storage or your account will be deleted if no action is seen you're taking, which is like, great. It was just reduced from 15 to 5 gigabytes all of a sudden. I have an ungodly amount of emails, and a lot of it's junk mail and junk mail. It's impossible to keep up with, no matter how many times I report stuff as spam. It seems like once some people get your email address, they go and just share it around, and there's some malicious actors who are clearly reselling email addresses to any company that will buy them on the dark web or some nonsense like that. Sitting there and deleting hundreds of emails, probably for it not even to make a dent, considering I'm at something like 90,000 emails over many years. That's what happens with a very old email and lots of spam. And also dealing with government officials saying, from welfare agency actually saying, we sent you a list of documents you need to provide. Well, how did you send it? You don't say if you sent it by mail, by email, what email address you sent it to, if by email. With the sudden reduction in the storage, it must have come effective this year, where they couldn't just leave people grandfathered in at 15 gigabytes. No, they had to suddenly reduce everyone to 5. I can't think why, with storage only becoming cheaper time, they would ever do that, unless it's some kind of cost thing that just by some jerk, you probably doesn't even say that much money, or maybe Google's raising their rates on storage. My best guess of why being that they're retooling all their servers, maybe for this AI stuff, just so they can make rich people richer by, instead of having servers that store stuff, maybe retooling it to a lot of like graphics card using. I mean, maybe I'm thinking of crypto that uses graphics cards to crypto mining to do, but I can't think of why else suddenly Google would maybe jack up the rates on storage to universities and such. Could just be a shareholder value maximization measure, whatever it is. It's probably something to do with capitalism and making the system worse for everyone. And I can't be the only person dealing with it. I bet there's millions of people who suddenly found they have to reduce the storage. I might not even be getting or able to send emails and address for a while, which is like even more ridiculous to just spring on people with a sudden reduction in storage that they had no input into, which is the problem with capitalism. I think I've explained to democratic socialist. The difference between democratic socialist and, like, say, a communist is that the communists believe in a vanguard party and, generally speaking, reducing the number of parties to one. And democratic socialists believe it's important to have multiple opposition parties in a healthy system, and to retool some of the systems of Western bourgeois democracy that can work very well under socialism, with just some restrictions to keep foreign money out and to keep whatever corporations that still exist, because any country that's ever gone socialist didn't nationalize every industry overnight. Not even the Soviet Union did. To keep remaining rich people from being able to buy politicians, with extremely strong restrictions on money in politics. But still allowing even capitalist parties to exist as an opposition. It's difficult because you do that, and very easily you get foreign propaganda, even if you don't have election interference that will probably convince people to try and do socialist stuff. Of course, historically that happened because the U.S. was pushing propaganda, and was us being the most powerful country in the world, we were just able to undermine socialist economies and boost opposition parties, countries that allowed them, because not every socialist country ever banned opposition parties. A great example of a country that's not even socialist but is heading in a socialist direction is Venezuela. It's the fundamentals of its economy are still capitalist, but it does have a ruling socialist party, does allow opposition parties, uh, despite the frequent allegations of election fraud that UN observers and others have repeatedly said are nonsense. They have one of the most monitored election systems in the world. It's actually ridiculous. They have, like, when you vote, there's a copy that's printed out that you keep. There's a copy that's sent to the local office. There's both electronic and paper records that are checked against each other. The amount of steps that have been taken to assure people there's no fraud going on are insane, but the U.S. keeps alleging, even before the results of any election are announced, and without any evidence that there's fraud, because it's just propaganda. But on top of that, more concerningly, more relevant to what I was saying, is the U.S. undermines economies like, say, Venezuela, where we cut off their access to world trade, and that will screw a tiny country like that that's dependent on oil exports. It's an underdeveloped economy. It's a small country. Unless you believe in nonsense autarky theory, there's no way that, which is a fascist idea, there's no way that a country can just build itself up from nothing, without trade, without access to gold markets, especially a small country, which just because it's small isn't necessarily going to have a balanced set of natural resources or climates. It's not like, well, the Soviet Union, which was huge and had a lot of different mineral resources, although it was almost all cold climates, so they had problems with food. It's an area that needs to import food, and in fact imports those areas import food today now that Russia's capitalist again and able to access global markets because it's easier to grow food in warmer climates. That's a comparative advantage. No, socialism is not synonymous with not having world trade. Anyhow, I got on a tangent. I mean, I guess I was saying it'd be nice if people had some, voice. Like, no, I don't want my storage suddenly reduced threefold to a third of what it was before, because this would create an impossible situation where I have to get rid of 5 gigabytes of emails, which probably means thousands and thousands in some unknown timeline. It's almost like the goal is to forcibly delete a lot of accounts, and it's not even really about anything other than just having fewer people, which means fewer support tickets when things go wrong, and cost saving. I don't know. I think it's a little worse than just limiting the storage. I'm sure that played into consideration to the decision, even if it wasn't officially said, knowing that this would get a lot of accounts deleted. Older ones that there was just no way to bring down. But I worked on that, and that was stressful. I worked on content the government official and saying, I don't have anything from you. How did you send the list you said you sent me? That you said you were going to send me days ago, and then you'd call me today to, I got to get a voicemail today saying you didn't actually send it, and you just sent it, but I still don't have anything, so how did you send it? It's ridiculous. I'm not sure if these government officials are malicious or just incompetent, or probably maliciously incompetent, by which I mean incompetent people are intentionally put in these offices by people higher up because they want people not able to access services, in this case welfare services, because I'm disabled long COVID, and my state in the United States has a program that can provide some welfare benefits, even if the federal government is screwing me out by not giving me credit for more than half of my work history, and then say I'm not eligible for Social Security disability because of not having enough work history. And I do have enough work history. They're just missing a bunch and saying you can't fix the record if it's more than 30 months after, which is insane. And I hope, dear viewer, if any of you are Americans, you don't ever have to deal with this when it comes time to retire. If you ever get disabled, contact your Social Security Administration now and check your earnings reports. I would bet dollars to donuts a ton of you have jobs you worked that they don't have records of, and they're just hoping. I think this is another example of malicious incompetence. Though maybe this is intentional in this case. People, the politicians, all the real power, are hoping. They probably somehow knew this would end up happening, whether they underfunded their ability to validate previous work history and collect information, or made sure, say, the IRS can't share info with them. I don't know how this ended up becoming the reality, but hoping they could screw a lot of people out of disability if they got disabled, or retirement even someday, especially people with marginal work histories, as they have enough but not a lot of room for error, which is going to become more and more common as unemployment becomes more and more common due to increasing productivity, advancing technology, and accelerating movement of jobs overseas, as well as replacement by AIs. It's going to become more and more common for people to have enough work history to retire for disability, but not enough that if they get screwed out of much of it, that they still will. I don't know. I highly doubt that this is an example of a government agency honestly working for the better good and politicians wanting the best thing. No, this strikes me as somewhere along the line something malicious. I just, I don't know enough about what. And these days it's kind of hard to find out the truth with, like, the media under attack and the very concept of truth under attack. Which, by the way, welcome to the beginnings of fascism. That's always how it starts. The concept of truth, the media comes under attack. The U.S. is probably going to end up that way eventually, although I suspect it won't go straight to fascism. There'll probably be a period of a more traditionally authoritarian government with erosion of civil liberties, and then maybe if that's still not dominating the people enough for the interest of the rich, then it'll turn to actual fascism. But the U.S. is definitely in decline, and this is the decline of U.S. democracy. With, like, I was getting all of these emails from a newspaper. For instance, we need donations because we're under attack from, like, the U.S. government now with Trump. It's like, yeah, of course you're under attack, because this is how democracy dies, and it's going to happen. And it's too late to save, probably. I want out of the country, but unfortunately I'm stuck living with family. A stubborn mother who doesn't want to change, doesn't want to leave, thinks she'll be worse off if she leaves, thinks it'll happen everywhere. If it happens here, it's just depressive nonsense. There are places in the world that are better, and in Western Europe they're going to look at this and say, we don't want it to be like this. A lot of people are going to try and solidify democracy in the social democracies that exist, and the whole world is not doomed, is what I'm saying. That's just the thinking of someone who's depressed and doesn't want to have any hope. Because depression is fundamentally, this is something I will in school, but it's fundamentally to be considered nowadays that the current theory is learned helplessness. And part of that is people not wanting to get their hopes up because they feel they'll just be crushed if they do. But it's problematic for me, who's very much not depressed, and dealing with this person, this family member, my mother, I already said, I think. And subject to, I can't just pick up and move to Europe on my own. I'm unable to work because of long COVID, and very few countries will allow someone who's too sick to work to move there. Especially when it's not bad enough, the U.S. yet, that I can make myself like a political refugee. I can't say I'm seeking asylum because it hasn't gone that bad yet, but I know it will. I'd like to be out way before that happens. But I am trapped. Fortunately, I'm not the only one. A lot of people are disabled or trapped in the U.S. Often have the hardest time leaving, and the first target, for instance, the the Nazis went and murdered disabled people before they came for communists or socialists or trade unionists or Jews or any of the other groups. Roma, gays, they came after all these groups, but the very first they took out was disabled people because they were extremely vulnerable, had the least ability to flee to other countries where they could tell the media in those countries what was happening and start to create the seeds of an anti-fascist movement that would, help support things like the U.S. going to war with Germany, World War II, though actually Germany declared war on the U.S. to ally on its alliance with Japan. But the fact that people started to get an idea of how bad it was in Germany created a lot of support for that war in the United States, made it more popular politically than otherwise would have been to, bring down the Nazis. But I don't think it's a coincidence they went for the disabled first. Also, it's one of the most marginalized group that fascists love to portray as parasites or whatever. No, we were just members of society, just like anyone else, and something bad happened to us, whether it's an industrial accident or a sickness. In my case, I got COVID, and that did something permanent to my immune system, probably, and my inflammation. Long COVID is thought to be a persistent condition of inflammation and autoimmune disease too. There's probably an element of the body trying to attack leftover COVID virus particles and gaining cross-reactivity to something in itself in the body. That's one of the theories. There's a lot of them. There's stuff to do with clotting. It's probably stimulated partly by the abnormal microclots that form in people with long COVID, which are inflammatory and would stimulate the immune system. And I suspect that probably leads to autoimmunity over time, which is what's actually keeping the disease going. Because you can find these microclots in people who don't have long COVID who had a COVID infection as well. I don't know. I'm a very, very intelligent person, was tested as a genius as a kid. I didn't become stupid because of long COVID. I just got so I can only be alert for a few hours a day and say halfway intelligent things before I just get bad headaches and can't think. And I can't keep my thoughts as organized as I could in the past. There's a lot of neurological effects of this disease, brain fog. But what I'm saying is not completely off base, and I've been reading, some of the research and trying to formulate ideas. It's natural for me as someone who was a scientist. When you read the research, if you're a scientist, you'll formulate your own hypotheses about things, and then if you ever get the chance to research on that subject, you'll try and test out some of those hypotheses. This differs by how intelligent a person you are. Highly intelligent, talented scientists will do this almost by default whenever they read something, whereas the more run-of-the-mill types will wait when they're reading something in their field, and because it's harder for them, it takes more mental energy, and they read something in their field, and we're more disciplined. I mean, you have very smart people who don't do this because they're all the time just only when they're reading something in their field, save them mental energy. But I don't know, I had a curious mind. It's impossible not to. And my field was viruses at one point. So it's COVID, long COVID stuff is not that far outside of what I used to do at one point. Wasn't the latest research I did. That was on cardiac bypass stuff, but it was the second most research I ever did. Recent research, second most recent. So it's not like I did a zillion other things after it that would get me more focused on them. Besides the cardiac bypass, it was more just collecting basic statistics. It wasn't like experimental science. It was just observational research, which doesn't really get you thinking as much, honestly. Or at least it didn't for me. It's less like descriptive research is what it was. Just describing patterns and then leaving it up to other scientists to actually try and explore more about why. That's the nature of the type of research I was moving my career more into, because there's actually more opportunities and funding for that kind of research than the investigative experimental research that actually comes up with answers. And I was going to try and become a physician. Physicians do a considerable amount of observational research. In fact, I was doing the cardiac bypass observational research under a physician, under a surgeon. They don't do a lot of experimental research. It's less common. Since I was going to hopefully become a physician soon, I was very close to that when I got sick to enter an MD program. I was retooling my skill set towards the type of research that doctors more routinely actually do, because it's easier and takes less time, and patient care is usually a thing that doctors like to spend most of their time on. In fact, more interesting and more emotionally fulfilling. It's something I would have probably enjoyed more, but I never got that chance because I got COVID, and then long COVID. Anyhow, so this tea exploration here, pretty relaxing. And I'm just doing the breeze with you folks, which is kind of relaxing for me. I don't know. If you followed this song, there's probably like 2 people watching at this point, but watch out for, to motivate myself to even go through and start deleting these emails, hundreds of them, and I'll probably try and do hundreds more later. I did buy a copy of Rise of Nations that was on sale. It's a game I used to have a CD of, but I could only find the CD for the expansion. I think it was, not the base game or something like that, or it was damaged. I don't remember. So I just bought a version on Steam that was on sale for $5. It's a bit more than I like to spend, but hopefully I'll get some good hours. I'd like to do some Let's Plays of that once I've picked the game up a little on my own, refamiliarize myself with the basics, because watching someone figure out like the tutorial, especially at the reduced rate I process stuff, is probably not super interesting. So at some point I'll do that. It's a game I've played before, so it should be easier for me to relearn it too, even with my long COVID, than a brand new game. And it's a classic. It's a game that one of the best RTS games ever made, up there with Empire Earth and Age of Wonders 2. Age of Empires 2. Although Age of Wonders is actually a very good war game itself, but I don't know if I would call that an RTS exactly. Alright, well, I'm just about ready to call this in a few more minutes. Doing one more iteration of these 1-minute boosts on this clicker here on the Explore event. I'm trying to get enough generators just to get in the top 250 for this event, which isn't going to happen unless I pick up a little more of the most valuable generators. Oh, I'm already over 250, but I'll lose that spot before. What I need to do is like grab another loose leaf tea, probably, and then just start grabbing whatever is cheapest, then log off, then come back before this 2-hour 12-minute expiry and grab some more generators. Otherwise I'll almost certainly get bumped at the last minute by someone who wanted to make the top 250 as well. I've seen that happen a lot. There are people who just predatorily wait until right before something time's up, and then they go, ooh, I'm going to go jump in. Or maybe they just, like me, they just really want to get the reward for, I'd like to get these mutagen points. They're very slow to accumulate. Yeah, I'm going to try and grab at least one more of the loose leaf tea, and then and tea plantation. Guess it doesn't have to grab matcha. Yeah, I'm going to need this. Oh, we can grab infused. Let's see, more valuable than the... No, it wasn't more valuable than the Lucy. Whoops. Well, shoot. I'll come back to that in a second. I haven't done Beyond or Mesozoic Valley this login. In fact, a couple days. I got to reading a a critique of the Age of Wonders TV show on what is it? 20-sided, I think it was called. It's this guy Samus Young. He used to have a blog. He died, by the way, of a heart attack subsequent to kidney failure a couple years back. But his site's still up, and his kids have tried to continue it because they were interested in it. I haven't found his kids' writing to be great, but there are a couple people aren't related to him who also do blogs, and some of them are good writers. I like the guy who was doing this critique of Game of Thrones. I hope he's still active there. And at least there's old archive stuff by Young himself, who is a good writer. Or interesting. I don't know, good, but amusing to read his critiques of games and shows. He also did a DM of the Rings comic strip, which I think is semi-famous on the internet. Check it out sometime if you got the chance, but it's easy, kind of like, I'd say the closest parallel being TV tropes, to just get sucked in and spend lots of hours on this, and I did. Plus spending a little time with family, and plus having trouble sleeping. It's been, point is, it's like 50 hours since I last logged onto this game. More than that, 48 plus 18. It's like 66 hours, I think, if I'm calculating right in my head. It's been a while. But, yeah, this mutagen, I've accumulated a bunch. It's slow to accumulate, though. Once you run through and you can't do the asteroid equations anymore, which you can only get this up, I think I can do it 11 more times. Then there's never ability to reset, I don't think, after that. That is when I get the 1050. And you can get a little bit when you reach certain critical thresholds with these generators, like 250. And you can get a little bit from these stone geodes, which you can get like one a day or one every 6 hours or something, I forget. But after that, then when you're just getting the geodes on a regular basis, you're getting the mutagens super slowly. And that's the thing. That'll ultimately limit your further increases in an income of fossils wherever the unit is there. Because mutagen is used to buy the upgrades, which can like double. And since the cost of each generator increases exponentially, it becomes the upgrades are the most cost effective. Anyhow. Grab that, I guess. And this 1 minute thing finishes up, I'll call it. Hopefully I can maintain my spawn in the top 250. Remember to log on in a couple hours anyways. For those of you watching, I hope you enjoy me kind of shooting the breeze here, talking, thoughts. I didn't have enough thoughts to do a Northstar Talks Politics, which I've done a few of those. But I've been using this game because it's such hot garbage. And it's so boring. There's not much to talk about. Just kind of shoot the breeze. And when I have a little thing talk about politics, talk it here so I don't ruin my other games. For anyone who watches My Heart's Iron, Let's Play, by the way, putting off that a little, I've encountered... I wanted to see how because it's new DLC, I know there's a lot of bugs, and so I test head things sometimes, and I realized there's a bug with a couple of the national spirits I'm about to take, and that is Spartacus League, which is like the democratic, socialist, anti-Stalinist kind of path. There's embrace democratic institutions and civil liberties. I was doing civil liberties as a focus, and that works correctly, but embrace democratic institutions doesn't give any of the bonuses it's supposed to, in terms of ruling party popularity stability and defensive war stability bonuses, and it only gives an increase in democratic, i.e. capitalist democratic support, which is a drawback you get, but is normally outweighed by the increase in ruling party popularity. So what it does is essentially creates support for an opposition party within your country, but gives you more extra stability from the number of people who still support the ruling party, to the point that your system is more stable overall. But that's only if the bonus still kicks in and the bonus is bugged, so you only get the penalty and not the bonus. Clear oversight by Paradox devs. From purely mechanical, and it's annoying. It makes the focus a booby trap, and it's a necessary focus for later things. So I can't proceed too much longer in the game without getting screwed by that bug, and I'm hoping I can get the bug fixed before I go too much further. So I may want to space out those episodes a little bit. That being said, it'll take me a while to get there, and it'll probably take, even if I aren't intentionally slowing things down, I only get a limit amount, like maybe a month of game time each time I do a video. And Paradox will probably take months to fix this bug if they ever do, because they are terrible about fixing bugs, though I seem to have gotten the attention of one of their staff members on the bug forum. Ironically, because someone, I think, reported that me for bumping too many bug reports at once. But had a very nice conversation with him, and maybe they'll actually do something about some of these bug reports, because for 3 months now I've been reporting bugs, and not a single one has been addressed, except for one that was marked as designed, but that's over a dozen bugs. Most of the things are not working as designed. They haven't been touched. So maybe I'll get lucky and they'll fix some stuff. That'd be really nice. Too often I feel powerless, and at least know I can get bugs fixed. Anyways, that's enough of this. Until next time, this is Northstar, signing off. Wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Adieu.